Let's get more now with criminal defense attorney and legal analyst Rachel Fiset. It's great to have you here. This really does seem to be a pretty surprising development here. What's your reaction to what just happened in the courtroom?
It is the best possible thing that could happen to a defendant in this case. And Alec Baldwin's team showed that there was evidence that they should have been given and they were not. And a prosecutor has a very high standard to give exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that is bad for their case and possibly good for the defense. And when they don't meet those ethical duties, this is exactly what can happen, along with sanctions and a host of other things. So really, the evidence that was not provided was so central to the case that the judge thought this case could not fairly proceed as a result of that evidence not being given to
I actually wanted to ask you, how crucial was this evidence to the case?
Well, we will actually never know. It's the fact that it could have been crucial to the case. We will never know. What they were, it was evidence of other live rounds on the set. The prosecution says it was not relevant at all because it was not the same exact type of bullet that was used in Ms. Hutchins' death. However, the defense never had a chance to test that. They never had a chance to understand how those live rounds got on the set. And without being able to prepare their defense, as with all of the evidence, the case is dismissed because we would never know. We don't know if that was the absolute crucial evidence or if it was irrelevant, but it was relevant enough to the central issues that the judge found it a dismissible case.
And just to reiterate, to clarify here, the judge dismissed the case with prejudice. What exactly does that mean? I'm assuming now that that will mean that this case is essentially done.
The case is done. They cannot retry a case against Alec Baldwin. It's dismissed with prejudice as a sanction for the prosecutorial misconduct of not turning over that evidence.
And how common is that kind of ruling? Do we see this very often in a criminal case?
I have seen it in my own criminal cases. It has happened. We've had cases dismissed based on prosecutorial misconduct, but it is not supposed to happen. The prosecutors are supposed to be ethically carrying out their duties. They have a lot of power being representatives of the government and having the ability to put people in jail. And so they are held to this high standard of having to turn over all the evidence. So it is not super common. It is not a common occurrence because most prosecutors are abiding by those duties. But when they don't, the sanctions and the consequences are very harsh.
Now, obviously, as you said, we will never know exactly how this trial would have unfolded. But I know you've been tracking this trial closely. How did it seem to you, and how difficult was this case for Alec Baldwin's team to defend?
I think Alec Baldwin's team was doing a very good job in the defense of this case. I would say they were likely winning as of this point in the trial. There were some missteps that were being shown by the investigation and the prosecution. And frankly, Alec Baldwin can always rely on the fact that he was told the gun was not loaded. And as an actor, he's simply carrying out duties of other people's vision. On Monday, the judge ruled he could not be, his role as a producer could not be introduced into the case, which was a very big win for the Baldwin team. So going forward, really the odds were looking more and more in his favor as this case progressed.
I guess the next question is, and of course we're seeing those emotional reactions from Alec Baldwin and his family in courtroom, but what comes next, and kind of what comes next for everybody that was involved in this tragic shooting on that set? Will this affect any other cases, or is this just one that will affect Alec Baldwin himself?
Well, I do believe that Ms. Gutierrez-Reed, the armorer that has already been convicted, will be filing appeals. One will just be simply based on this new evidence that came in allegedly after her conviction, but new evidence can lead to an appeal and an entirely new trial. So this could very much affect her case and how whether she's sentenced and carries out her sentence. So that's a very big deal there. I think Alec Baldwin's team will likely seek sanctions against the prosecutors. There will be an investigation, an internal investigation at the New Mexico DA's office as it relates to inquiring why there was this misconduct, what the intentionality was in it. So those prosecutors could be facing other sanctions besides this as well.
A really interesting and surprising development there in that case. Criminal defense attorney and legal analyst Rachel Fiset, thank you so much for your analysis.
My pleasure. Thank you.